How's everyone doing today? This is Chopping It Up Hardcore with Hal Capone. Discussion number 100! Yes, I made it. Coming to you live from a dirty parking lot in southern New Hampshire. Today, my special guest is Brian from the newly reunited, epic, legendary Screamo band in loving memory. And he was also in Dispensing a False Halo, such a crushing, dope band. I love that band. I've said it a million times. And he also plays an Antacid trip as well. Super stoked for this talk. Can't wait to talk about, I'm going to grab you right now. Let's see what's going on here.
If this works. Oh, hold on.
Hi, Hal.
Hey, Brian. What's going on? Good.
Oh, not a
can you hear
lot.
me all
How are
right?
you? Yeah,
Perfect,
I think so. I got
perfect.
you in the headphones and stuff.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out to do this. It's been a long time coming. I wanted to ask you a bunch of times, and I'm just glad that it came into fruition, and we got to chat on a Saturday lunchtime chat. So
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I think it's good timing too. I feel like the ball's rolling on some stuff, so I actually might have
nice. Yeah,
some material
I
for
was
you.
hoping on that. It's so refreshing to see like a lot of these older bands getting back together and reuniting, and like obviously I'm kind of chomping at the bit to see like videos or you guys actually playing the show that's coming up. What do you feel about this, and how did it kind of get talked about?
Well, in loving memory, we broke up, 20 years ago, is like 23 years ago at this point, basically. And went on to kind of do our own thing in like different bands, like Joe and I started doing Dispensing afterward. Jordan was doing Dispensing afterward and then moved on and was doing Two Peer to Die, which is like kind of a straight edge hardcore band that he did. Tanner went on to do Examination and Across Tundras and stuff. So everyone kind of went their own ways, but I think Jordan kind of always kept this bug out with everybody of like, we should try to, we should do a reunion show. We should do a reunion show and stuff. And it's like, I think he hounded on us for so many years that it finally a time in our lives came where it like actually made sense. Yeah, like four of the six of us are living back in Iowa now, which is also kind of a catalyst. Tanner had toured a lot and lived in Nashville and Colorado and stuff, and wound up moving back to Iowa. And Joe, after Dispensing, went to medical school and like finally became a doctor and took a job in Des Moines. So he like actually wound up back in Des Moines. So it's like, the time seemed right. There's like four of the six of us live in Des Moines again, and then Spencer and I are in a place where he can take time to fly in from like, well, he lives in Portland, and I had like, I'm at a place in our like business career where I can like take some time and come and like get up there. So it's just like, it just made sense. And I guess, everybody, once the ball got rolling on it, everybody kind of took some time to get back up to speed with like all their parts and figure everything out. So when we finally got together for the first time in December, and when we all got together, we all got in the room and like everybody kind of already knew what was going on, and we're like, all right, well, let's try it. And we like ran through the album. We had 10 songs on the original album, and we ran through it, and it was just like, all right, what are we doing next?
It's kind of like riding a bike, if you don't ride a bike for a while and then you jump on it, it feels it feels right.
Yeah, and we joke that we like kind of intentionally made those songs like relatively easy on ourselves, like in relatively, but like easy on ourselves, where it was like, I think it was easy for them once they figured out the tuning and stuff like that, to like be able to figure out like kind of like most of the chords and stuff are all kind of relatively same range, and you know, it made it easy for us to just like fling ourselves all around and
I mean, how was the
go
vocals
crazy.
for you and Jen? Was that tough, or was it kind of just like easy again?
I've continued to play in bands, and like done a lot of backup vocals. The most recent I did vocals in a band was like 2011. I was in a band in Gainesville called Bedwetter, that I sang for, but so it wasn't all that hard for me. After like a day and a half, like I definitely had like lost the voice, like blown it out. But we were putting in long days, like practicing for like 6-8 hours. So, you know, it's like, we'll run through the set and I'll skip this round, you know?
I mean, was there influence? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there influence with like the other bands that have gotten back together again, like Jerome's Dream and Seisha? And I mean, you're seeing it all over the place now. I mean, was there kind of like, well, they're doing it, so we could easily do this then?
I think, you know, we did it kind of on our own terms, but at the same time, I think that seeing the success that those guys were having and stuff was definitely a motivator, because it's like, oh, cool, like Seisha can sell out St. Vitus like 3 days in a row and raise like $10,000 for like cool charities. Like, what if we could do something like that, you know, like be able to raise money for causes that we care about, or like, put some of that money to like good use, or put it into a band fund, which we famously have never heard of having, and use it to, kind of further the band a little bit, and like kind of do some stuff that, we weren't able to do back in the day because we're, 16, 17. So.
I mean, it must be a dream come true too, to go back to Des Moines and like play those shows. It's kind of nostalgic and awesome. I don't want to tap into too much, but are you guys talking about touring someplace else, East Coast, West Coast, after those shows?
Not touring. We are we're working together. We're working on like I said, everything kind of fell into place really fast when it came to like learning the old songs, and some of the guys started kind of throwing different riffs and stuff into the group chat, and like being on other sides of the country, especially like our drummer lives in Portland, and everybody else is in Iowa. So it's like they're able to, like, fortunately our drummer Spencer's like able to like kind of like put drums over stuff and then like kind of send it back into the group. So we're able to kind of like work on some new material and like kind of breathe some life into the band. So we're basically, the plan is we're going to play those shows in September, in Iowa, like kind of on our own terms, on our own turf. We're actually playing at like two places that, like, the Botanical Center is, if anybody from Iowa is like watching, like that's like where we did all of the shows back in the day. And I know like anybody from outside that sees that, they're just like, why are they playing at the Botanical Center? But that it's like kind of part of the whole nostalgia of it, is that like that was like where we played all of our shows. Like we played with Converge at the Botan, we played with Botch there, we played with, I think, like, ISIS and Low played there, like all kinds of just like crazy legendary bands. So yeah, we're playing there, and then we're actually playing in the gym of the Christian high school that like three of us got kicked out of when we were all like freshmen. Yeah. And it's like, it's not a Christian high school anymore. It's like a privately owned, but they rent out the gymnasium for weddings and stuff like that. And so they're like, yeah, you guys can rent the place out. So we're just like, we're gonna play in our old gym. So, but yeah, from there, as far as like touring and stuff, like it's not really a reality for us. But we do have some balls in the air as far as like maybe playing some fly-in shows or something like that in like 2024. But nothing concrete. We're really like we kind of have our eyes set on that one goal of like doing the two shows that we like have booked already, and taking it from
like
there.
New material is kind of in work on.
Yeah, we're we booked some studio time, and we're gonna record. The
Nice.
goal is to record 4 new songs, and we'll try to get those out as quick as we can. Try to get them where like the
Yeah.
kids can check it out before the show. So whatever, and then yeah,
Yeah.
just who knows? That's we'll take it from there. We kind of got the ball rolling right now, so it's like we want to kind of keep that creativity going and
Yeah.
and
Now,
see
do
where
you
it
think
takes
like
us, I guess.
personal tastes have changed with all y'all? Like when you're creating new music, obviously, like people get older and their tastes change and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of people, aren't so hyped when they get older on screamo music and stuff like that. Has that been like? Is there going to be like a different sound because of all the different, likes as you get older?
I do think that we've all obviously kind of moved on like in musical taste and stuff like that. But what I think has been really fun about like playing together again is like kind of tapping back into that sound and like that energy and stuff. So we're trying to stay true to it. And we all have like kind of opinions about newer stuff that's come out and whatnot, that where it's just like we're seeing kind of a
Yeah.
revival of that type of music, I feel like. And we all like kind of hear this or that or the other thing. It's like, oh, I kind of like that the kids are doing, or like, that doesn't really do it for me. So we're kind of trying to tap back into that influence and like bring it back in and
Nice,
kind of stay
nice.
true to the original
Can
sound.
you just talk about the origin of in loving memory? How did it start? How did you all get together and start that band?
Yeah.
That's all right.
Oh,
I
I'm
have
sorry,
three
my
dogs.
dogs are barking back there. I hope
I
it's
have
not
three
coming
dogs.
through
That's why
too
I do
loud.
it in a dirty parking lot. So
I tried to take them for a walk and close them in their room, but anyways,
no,
I may
believe
make
me, I
noise,
know
but
how it is.
uh,
Definitely.
so Joe and Spencer and I all went to Des Moines Christian together. It was the school I told you, like, well, I guess just Spencer and I got kicked out, but anyways, that's a different story. We were in high school together. We had all kind of, I guess Joe had gone there from the early days, but Spencer and I both like lived in a suburb, and then like our parents thought that we were like
Yeah.
troubled kids, so we needed to go to Christian school. So they sent us there. So we both wound up going there at the same time. We wound up riding the bus together because we lived in the same area. So we're riding the bus together to school and sitting in the back of the bus. We made
Yeah.
friends pretty quick because we were both weird. And um, we we made friends pretty quick, and we were just like kind of in the back of the bus, like one headphone in
Yeah.
each other's ear, you know what I mean? Like listening to music and like checking out stuff. So we kind of dug into music a little bit ourselves. And then Joe we went to high school with him, and then this other guy, Justin, who also like was in our class. We all like kind of started talking about trying to start a band. And Spencer had a friend, Jordan, who was a year younger than us. And I think they went to church together, honestly, was how they knew each other. But like, they would like kind of talk about bands, and Jordan played guitar. So like Jordan played guitar. I I played bass, and Spencer played drums, and then like our buddy Justin sang, and that was kind of like
Yeah.
we started jamming together a little bit and stuff. And in Spencer's parents' basement when we were like, I know Jordan was 14, we were 15. So we started playing together a little bit, and then Justin didn't really like it, or wasn't like a good fit. I don't remember exactly. And then we swapped him out, and I started singing, and Joe started playing bass instead of me, because Joe like actually kind of knew how to play bass. I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, I have this thing, Uh, so yeah, it was just like really just like early high school, started playing together and stuff. And it was the four of us for a long time. Our band was called Day of Atonement. and we would just like kind of rip off disembodied
Yeah.
riffs and like stuff like that, and like we'd play little shows
Yeah.
and like fling ourselves around, and like, you know, it was kind of a chaotic little mess. But I mean, that's what it is. You know, you're 14, 15. Like our
Yeah.
parents would drive us to shows that we would play and stuff. Yeah, we played our first show in '98 with a few other local bands in the basement of this pizza place, and then like started getting like offers from some other like little coffee shop shows and stuff that like Jordan's. It's funny, like Jordan's sister's husband now. His name's
Mm-hmm.
Jake. He was in a band
Yep.
called
I know.
Fed by Ravens, and they're
Yep.
from yeah, Minneapolis band. And he was living in town, so I think he was pretty
Yeah.
responsible for like kind of feeding us a lot of stuff. He'd be like, Jordan, check this band out, and Jordan would bring it to practice and be like, check out this CD. He showed me this band At the Gates, man. These guys are scary. I remember we're like listening to At the Gates, like, oh my god. But yeah, it's just kind of like developed from there. We eventually decided we needed to like, I guess we kind of dialed in what kind of sound we wanted to do
Yeah.
after like doing that for a little while. We started hearing, you know, Sioux Falls bands. Like the
Yeah.
Spirit of Versailles was really big for us because they were, you know, around the same time, and they were also like really young, and they put out that first 7-inch inline for Halos. And I remember
Yeah.
we got it and we fucking gobbled that shit up. We're
Yeah.
just like, oh man, like this is it. These guys are awesome. And song is Zarathustra also. Those guys, the like
Yeah.
their Minneapolis band is pretty much what they're known as, but they were
Mm-hmm.
originally there from Sioux City, Iowa. Um, and had some like we would go see shows in Sioux City, and we heard about those guys, and like yeah, we got their
Yeah.
record, and we're like, oh, this is it, you know, these guys are cool. And Eclipse of
Yeah.
Eden too. I know you talked to Rusty, that and Rusty went on and sang for Dispensing. Like those guys were, you know, those guys are a big influence on us. So it's it's kind of funny, like the scene, like the Midwest, like screamo scene was like, it was really like
Mm-hmm.
kind of strangely self-contained, you know, where it's like
Yeah.
everybody kind of just likes each other's bands and stuff. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of scenes were like that back then
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there was no internet or anything, so you just kind of like draw influence from guys that are close. But yeah, so we kind of decided like, all right, we're gonna go kind of more that route, like the more like kind of emotive hardcore, like yeah, like screamo, emo
Yeah.
violence sound, whatever you call it. So we decided to do that. We played our first show as in loving memory with Reversal Man and Combat Wounded Veteran on that like that
Yep.
summer of 99, 98
Yep.
tour that they did, the massive tour. So we played our first show as in loving memory with those guys, and then pretty quickly afterward we're just like, we should get another singer. So we got Jen was a friend of ours, and we're like, well, Jen's cool, she likes all the same music as us. Like we talked to her like, can you scream, you think?
Yeah.
She's like, sure, I'm sure I could do it. So we got her, and we played like a few shows with her, and then like Tanner, something that happened with Spirit, and Tanner like was just like, he quit that band, and he was like, I think he said he had like a relationship had ended
Yeah.
up there, and he was just like ready for a change of scenery. And Rusty from Eclipse was living in town already, and like I think kind of told him like, you know, move to Des Moines is cool, like
Yeah.
they got a cool thing going or whatever. And so Tanner moved to Des Moines, and he is like, we had played with Spirit and stuff, so he was just kind of like, he got to town, he was wanting to play music, and he's just like, hey,
Yeah.
can I play with you guys? And we're like,
Yeah.
Tanner wants to play.
Yeah.
Our
Definitely.
band. Like, cool. So yeah, so then Tanner joined the band, and it refined really quickly with his experience and like expertise and stuff, because he's a true songwriter and like an incredible
Yeah.
talented
Nice. Nice.
person. So
I always
yeah.
ask, what were you listening to as a kid, and then what kind of transitioned you to the hardcore, like punk, screamo type of stuff? I always ask that because some kids, like, I listened to disco when I was real young, and then all of a sudden I listened to heavy metal, and then it turned to thrash metal, then a little tiny bit of death metal, and then it was like full on straight edge, like New York City hardcore, and then it just kept going and going and going for me.
My musical I don't know, my musical story is not all that exciting because my parents were like conservative Christians and basically wouldn't let me listen to anything that didn't fall into their box. So I guess, I don't know, when I was a kid, I remember like trying to figure out like, all right, I have to listen to Christian music, but like what's like the hardest kind? So like, I don't know, I'm looking at the CD store, like trying to find like the Christian CD store, trying to find stuff that like looks scary or something. I'm just like, oh, this looks metal. And I don't remember, I found this, the first CD I remember I found was this band called Chatterbox. And it was like this dumb, like industrial, like Christian band. So I'd like listen to that, and I'd just like, I don't know, it's like I said, my like musical taste as a kid was basically nothing. Just like my parents would play, my dad would listen to like the oldies and stuff. I remember when I was like real little going to like old car night with my dad, and like he loved to like mess around with like old cars and stuff. And I'd be like hula hooping out there, like listening to the oldies and stuff. So I guess that's like when I was a little kid. And then like I said, like I got pretty into like the like kind of grunge and stuff at some of my buddies' house. Like when I was a kid, I could like watch MTV over at my pal's place. So we got pretty heavy into Nirvana and like the grunge scene and stuff like that. And then, like I said, when I figured out that like metal and hardcore was a thing, I'm just like, oh, that's what I want, dude. Like you're always looking for something that's a little heavier, like a little meaner sounding. Yeah, and so that was like pretty much like I had to like listen to Christian hardcore. So like, once we figured out Zayo and, Living Sacrifice and some of those early like kind of metallic hardcore bands that were coming out, like on, I think, Solid State Records.
I was just talking to Scott from Keflin about them the last discussion, and they're getting back together again. Did you see that? They're playing like Furnace Fest or?
Yeah, they're playing Furnace Fest. I saw that shit, dude. That band was raw as fuck too, because they were like, that shit was fucking crazy. I remember listening to that and being just like, holy shit, they're like, like,
and also the split with Zayo is so good too.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, I think it's funny, I tell people that now, and like younger people that like, oh yeah, I grew up like listening to Christian hardcore, and people are just kind of like, all right, but it's sort of like, honestly, like the shit, like back then there wasn't like such a line drawn between like, you can't, like it's either hardcore or it's like this stupid version of it. It was like Christian hardcore bands would be playing with like, like Disembodied or like, bands that are like kind of satanic or like, like evil like bands and stuff like that. It was like the lines weren't so defined. I don't feel like it was all just like, oh, this is all hardcore, and like those guys are Krishna ones, and those guys are Christian, and those guys are like like so, the evil ones.
True. I mean, when I was young looking for Zayo CDs and tapes, I had to go to a Christian bookstore probably 2 towns over, because they didn't have it at like the record stores here. So I had to like actually go to a Christian store to get like a Zayo CD, which is wild back then. I mean, the struggle when you're our age. You really had to, do your due diligence to find music. Like you were really digging in the crates and like searching and looking at somebody that had a band shirt on, or looking through the credits in a on the vinyl inserts or whatever it was. Like, you really had to search, and setting up shows, like you were saying too, was the same thing. It's like I set up shows, and I was like, you know, writing letters to people and being like, hey, I know you're from Maryland, but do you think you'd want to come up to, like, you know, Massachusetts on the New Hampshire border and play a show? It's like I was reaching, but like sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So it was a struggle back then, but it was fun, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Let
No
me throw
problem.
my boys outside real
Yeah, no
quick.
problem.
I'm sorry.
Jeff, what's going on? If you're still here, saw your comment. What's going on?
Jesus. Sorry about that. I'm just like, the whole time you're talking, I hear them just
I'm so used to it. I mean, I'm so used to it. I have three, so it's I kind of almost block it out. My wife and my kids are like, I can't take it, and I'm so used to blocking out the barking that it doesn't really like faze me anymore. So it's totally cool. I totally understand.
Yeah, I have three Great Danes, and they just like they
Yep.
need to be involved in like what's going on. I'm just like, I gotta put you guys in your room, and they're just like, hell no, I hear you out there talking.
I wanted to talk about. Oh, actually, I wanted to mention. Do you remember the band Overcome? I was talking about this and with Scott. That was a Christian band that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
I think like When Beauty Dies is probably my favorite album by them. And like you were saying, the crossover of, you know, the line isn't drawn where, you know, back then, like, I wasn't religious at all. I'm still not. But those bands always, like, just the sound and, like, you know, even the lyrics, like, they weren't over the top Christian. So it was like, it still was like really, really something that I listened to a lot and really dug back then.
Yeah, totally. I think Overcome definitely made its way through our CD player in the back of the bus. Listen to that. Yeah, it's funny. Like, some of that stuff was, and then some of it was like so preachy. You're just like, you go to try to listen to it again, and it's like you can't really understand the lyrics because, man, these guys are just like they're hitting you with some Jesus-y shit, man.
Strong Arm.
That like Strong Arm in particular, like. I love Strong Arm, dude. That shit is badass. But like, you don't want to tell your friends that you like it because they'll go check it out and be like, "What
guilty
the fuck?"
Pleasure. Rusty just said, didn't we catch the last Overcome show?
Oh shit, I didn't. Maybe those guys did. They had a whole different thing going on over in Sioux City where, like, man, some of the bands that I've heard them talk about playing the Legion Hall, it is bananas. Like, they're talking about, you know, like 96, like seeing at the drive-in with like 10 people at, you know, in the Legion Hall, and so it's crazy. Yeah, I wish I could have got Overcome.
I saw Overcome in Arizona. It was the only time I saw a show in Arizona. I was there visiting like a friend, and I knew about a show in Tempe. And I ended up going to that just because I was in the area for like a week and a half, and he was going to ASU at the time, and that show was there, so I went solo. I got a ride there, got dropped off because those guys weren't into hardcore or anything, and I was like, I got to see a show in Arizona, and it was an Overcome show. It was like unbelievable. So it was a fun time, definitely a fun time.
That's dope. Yeah.
We'll go on from Christian hardcore.
I could talk about it for way too long, but nobody wants to hear about it.
I wanted to speak on Dispensing of False Halos and how that kind of how you got together with Rusty and how that band. I know you guys toured like crazy. It was, and obviously you toured up in New Hampshire because I took a video of you guys back then.
Yeah, you have that ancient footage of it. Yeah. So after In Loving Memory broke up, I think everybody, like, Eclipse of Eden had pretty recently broken up as well. In Loving Memory broke up like basically while we were still in high school, and it was like honestly like it was basically because like Tanner wanted to go on tour like really bad. Like he just like he'd been on tour a few times with Spirit, and then he like moved out of town, moved to Des Moines, played with us while we were like sophomore, freshman in high or sophomore, like juniors in high school. And I think that itch was just like too much for him, and he's just like I got to get on the road. He joined Eclipse actually and went on tour with them for what wound up being, I think, their last tour. And I'm sure, Rusty could correct me if that was not the exact timeline, but so Eclipse had just broken up and Loving Memory had just broken up. Jordan, really wanted to do something different. He wanted to do do a hardcore band. And, not that In Loving Memory wasn't hardcore, but, something more hardcore. And, he was like, I think pretty like heavily influenced by like, Poison the Well and Hope's Fall at the time, like the stuff that was like, it was kind of emotive, but it also like had those like kind of big breakdowns and stuff that was like, is a little meaner. And he'd try to bring that stuff to the table within Loving Memory, and we'd be like, get out of here with that. The funny thing is that now like we've been practicing again, and he brings some like heavy shit, and we're just like, oh shit, there it is. Like, but anyways, yeah. So he, I think Jordan and Rusty really kind of got together and came up with an idea for like, all right, we want to do this. And they got Joe from In Loving Memory. He was our bass player, so they got him to play guitar because he had always been a guitar player, and he's like really fucking good guitar player. So it was Jordan and Joe on guitar and Rusty on vocals, and then our buddy Bill, who Chris is his actual name, but we all just call him Bill. He played drums, and we went to high school together as well. He actually went to Des Moines Christian, and then I think left around the same time as we did, and like I don't know, we had a similar arc. So he played drums, and me and Bill were really tight back in the day. I actually played in my first band with him. And then I want to say his name's Brett Parker. Somebody's gonna get mad at me if I got that name wrong. But yeah, our buddy Damien's cousin, Blake Parker is his name. He was playing bass. And so it was like, the five of them started the band. It was called Morning Recluse. And they started playing, they played a handful of shows, and I remember I'd go to their shows and I'd be telling Jordan, whenever they play, I want to play bass for this band. So I'm like, I want to play it, I'm like, I miss playing, I miss being in bands and stuff. I had played bass when I was younger, so I don't remember what happened, but Blake had to quit, and so I got the call, and I'm like, sweet. So so I joined the band. We changed the name pretty quick to Dispensing of False Halos. And we went on tour. We went on our first tour spring break of my senior year. So me and Joe and Bill, me and Joe and Bill's senior year and Jordan's junior year. And Rusty was a little older than us. He wasn't in high school, but so yeah, we went on our first tour then, so that would have been 2001. And then once school got out, we just fucking hit the road, and we're not going back. We had tour I mean, in the heat of it, I think we were touring 8 months out of the year. Right out of high school, I think we probably went on tour for 4 months that year probably. And Rusty had a lot of connections and knew how to like book tours and stuff like that, and had a band, and the rest of us are like fresh out of high school, we have guitars, you know. So yeah, that was kind of how that
Yeah,
got
I know
started.
you guys toured like crazy. I mean, obviously, if you're touring in New Hampshire, you're touring everywhere because not every band came and played in New Hampshire. It's funny that place, Drifters up in Nashua, New Hampshire, that you played. I saw 2 shows there. That was it, and I went there to see Dispensing. Not that I didn't care for the other bands. I'm not throwing shade on any of those other bands. I know Boy Wonder played that show with y'all, and I forget who else played that show, but the other show I went to was Love Lost But Not Forgotten, and they played with As I Lay
Cool.
Dying and maybe Code 7.
Hell yeah.
I put the video on my YouTube channel. I can't really remember the name because literally, like, I just went to see Dispensing and then I went to see Love Lost because, like, I love those bands so much. Yeah, it was a weird venue.
It's just like a weird
and
venue or something.
And I wasn't, like, at the time, like, crazy in love with, like, the metalcore sound, but Dispensing and Love Lost was kind of different in almost, like, in a chaotic way where it was still, you know what I mean? I always loved metalcore, but then I kind of got into, like, a screamo phase. Like, once I saw, like, Station, Jerome's Dream way back in the day, it kind of changed my, you know, I was into the, like, metalcore, moshy type stuff, and then I saw them live, and I was like, oh, wait a second. And I saw Reversal, and I'm like, whoa, like, this shit is crazy. Like, oh, God.
They were the best of all.
By far, my favorite band is Reversal, man. And Jeff was on here, said hello.
Yeah.
Legendary Jeff Howe. He popped in.
Did he pop in there?
And hello to Joe too.
That's my man.
Yeah,
dude.
so that kind of changed my mind. But that's why I went to that place, Drifters, to see you know, Love Lost and Dispensing, because like the crossover effect for me was like, oh, I got to go see these bands. And it's funny, I showed you that picture of the Dispensing shirt that I still had. I think it's still like a youth large. I take a large now, extra large. I swear to God, the sleeves were like up here. But I held on to it, so I still have it.
Yeah, I've got a few of those, like those old shirts that you're just like, I won't get rid of it, but I'll never fucking wear it again. So it's like, you gotta find somebody
really
cool
small,
to pass
though.
it
I mean,
on
I
to.
gave a stack of youth large shirts to. I couldn't find anybody that was small, so I was like, this girl. I was like, oh, do you want these? Because she's just like a tiny petite girl, and she's like, yeah, I'll take those. And I'm like, oh, here you go. Like, I give her like 20 youth large, like screamo hardcore shirts. Oh,
I bet she got some
yeah,
gold
there was
what the
sweet
fuck is
shirts
this?
that I was like kicking myself in the ass for like getting rid of, but I was like, yeah, what am I? You know, I wasn't gonna like eBay them or something like that. I don't care. Like for me, I'll just give away like whatever because I don't care about the money.
Right.
If somebody's gonna enjoy it, like I'd rather give it to somebody that's gonna enjoy it.
True. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pass it along, man, for sure.
I also wanted to talk about Antacid Trip. Is that band still going on right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's my buddy Tim. He's Bradenton based. He writes, records, plays like every instrument. It's a one-man band. Is what it is. And it's like obviously nobody's like really heard of it. It doesn't get a lot of like we don't play out or anything like that a whole lot. But yeah, Antacid Trip. It's like basically like a punk Antifa black metal project that, like I said, like most of those type of projects, it's a one-man band. And then my buddy Justin and I flesh out the live band. So yeah, I play bass, Justin plays drums. We all kind of have like a vegan connection. Like those guys are both vegan dudes. I own 2 vegan restaurants. So those guys will like come in and like, I don't know, I just remember like working the counter. It's like, oh, like punk rock vegan dudes, like fucking talking to these guys. So like, yeah, we became homies. And I saw Tim and Justin play like as a 2-piece. He was just like playing guitar and singing, and Justin's playing drums. And I was like, man, this shit rips. Like, you guys need a bass player, you know? Like I hadn't played bass. Like honestly, like I used to fuck around a little bit after Dispensing broke up, but like I probably hadn't played bass since like 2009 or something like that. So I was just like kind of feeling it. I'm like, man, I want to jam a little bit. So yeah, I got up to speed with those guys, and yeah, we play shows here and there, like around town here in St. Pete or Lakeland, Tampa. We're playing a show in Bradenton next month and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like a fun,
Yeah,
part-time gig.
No,
It's pretty tight. And it's like it's low. I don't have to like contribute much to writing, so it's like pretty user friendly for me when it comes to like getting back up to speed playing bass and stuff.
What
Yeah.
made you make the move to Florida? What kind of got you down there?
It doesn't snow in Florida. That's really kind of the true answer. Like, my wife went to college at Iowa State. I grew up in Iowa, and that's all I'd lived in my whole life was, just like, everybody loves, we get all the seasons and stuff, but it's like we get like the shittiest part of all of them. It's just like, as soon as fall gets here, it's just like gray, and then winter's just like bleak, like negative
super
20
cold.
degrees, like snow like piling up. It's just like intense, like so brutal. And then like spring comes around, everything's supposed to like spring and be nice, but it's just still like everything's dead and gray, and like it's just, I don't know, Iowa just like wore me out. I got tired of being there. And she'd lived kind of up and down the West Coast, and then like her family moved to Iowa when she was in high school. So she basically had lived through high school and college in Iowa, and like by the time she was finishing up school, we were both like ready to get the fuck out. So she was looking at grad school, and I was just like, well, why don't we go look at some schools in Florida? I got some homies down there, because Dispensing used to play down here so much. Like, every time we go on tour, like we'd have like a week in Florida. We'd be like, all right, we're going to Florida. Shit, we're gonna play Pensacola. We're gonna play Tampa. We're gonna play St. Pete. We're gonna go down to Miami and go back up the other coast. We'd play like, we loved it down here. And so I have like a pretty big network of people that I knew down here. So yeah, our buddy Rick Smith, he plays drums in Torch. He had been in a band called Tyranny of Shaw that we played with a lot back in the day. Him and our buddy Tony, who was in a band Adore Meridia that also kind of toured with Tyranny of Shaw, kind of same time period. They were both living in Gainesville, and obviously UF is in Gainesville. Go Gators. So we went to visit them, and Audrey checked out the school, and we those guys had a house that had an in-law suite in the back that they their roommate was moving out from. So we were just like, let's move down here. Let's move to Florida and get the fuck out of Iowa. So and I've been in Florida ever since. I lived in Gainesville for 7 years, and I've been in St. Pete since 2017. So 5, 6.
I've been trying,
something
but
like that.
it's not working. My daughters are, they're not supposed to being out of school, so they're not going. They're like, no way.
Oh,
and,
true.
Because New England, it's almost the same thing up here. It's like New England winters are just killing me, and I'm in my 50s now, so it's like it's brutal. I'm sick of shoveling. I'm sick of snow blowing, driving in this shit. But maybe once they both get out of high school, it's time for the move, because I love Florida. I went to Venice. I went to Venice from last year, and I'll be in Orlando in like a month or so. We always go down to Florida. So Venice is real nice.
What are you going to Orlando
for? Orange Lake, the Orange Lake Resort down there. We're just gonna, we have like a RCI, timeshare thing. So it's kind of cheap to go down. Kind of cheap to go down there. The kids get to, do whatever. I don't think we're gonna hit Disney, because I think that's kind of, I'm done with the Disney thing. Maybe I'll hit Typhoon Lagoon or something like that. You know what I mean? But we're just gonna chill in the pool, and my likes are the Gulf Coast. You know what I mean? That's why we go to Venice all the time. The ocean there on the Gulf Coast is amazing. So that's
it's like a big, beautiful
I love it. So hopefully I can get down there someday. But we'll see.
Dude.
I wanted to talk real quick about your restaurants. Now, Jeff Howe was involved in one of those with you?
Yeah, we just opened a restaurant with Jeff and his wife, my wife and I, and our friends Brian and Mikey. And yeah, we just opened in September. It's called Good Intentions. It is a fully vegan, full service bar and restaurant. We are the first all vegan owned and like full service vegan bar and restaurant in,
Wow,
I think, the entire Southeast. There's some places that are similar concept, but they don't have vegan ownership group. So yeah, we're really proud to have like created a vegan ownership group and intend to do a lot more than just this. But yeah, we opened our first place in September, and we're in the thick of it right now. But yeah, between Audrey, myself, and Jeff's wife Jenny, we kind of shared GM duties, and then we have a crew of about 50 employees down there. So yeah, so it's a beast, and we're guiding it. But yeah, Jeff's involved, but not like, he's kind of like silent owner type of situation.
So congratulations, by the way,
Yeah.
on that too. Definitely. Now, your
Thank
wife's
you.
not going to be mad because I'm not wearing a Cyclones hat, right?
Maybe a little earlier in life we might have poo-pooed that a little bit, but I don't care about the Hawkeyes Cyclones rivalry anymore.
Instagram handcuffs me as usual, so I think I only have an hour here because I'm always getting in trouble for the most stupidest reasons of all time. I've been banned from live twice already for absolutely nothing. So yeah, I mean, I've said this before. Once I started doing these lives, it was, you know, you do, I think, I don't know what it is, like 8 or 10 lives, and then you can go up to 4 hours, and then they don't like something that was like nothing, and then they ban my live for a month, and then I come back, and then they cut me down to an hour, and then I have to go another 10 to get to the 4. Yeah, it's like ridiculous.
Oh, you gotta do 10 more.
So I just wanted to do these rapid fires before we run out of time. So you ready for some rapid fire? All right, my first one. All-time favorite hardcore punk screamo band from New England. Yep.
From New England? I'd have to say Converge, but with the preface that from like Jane Doe.
I agree. Definitely. Petitioning is probably my favorite of all time. Like for me, because I'm old and like that's my favorite. So.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm talking about. Like I'm Jane Doe and before.
Next question. What was your first real hardcore show you attended? Like real hardcore show, not like Battle of the Bands or like a real hardcore show.
Fed by Ravens played at what was the Safari Club back then. One of the guys from Slipknot owned it, and Jesuit opened that show. And I remember we were standing at the back of the room. We're like 15, and we're like, these guys are so loud.
Jesuit's so good.
And shout out to Drip from Des Moines. They were a terrible nu metal band that opened that show at the time, and I remember we were so mad because their singer Jay jumped off the stage and put Joe in a headlock, and we were just like, who is this giant guy putting our friend in a headlock right now? This is crazy. We became friends with all those guys afterward, but back then we were like, man, fuck these guys. Somebody says El Bait Shop. We're talking about Safari Club.
My next question. What was the first show you played live?
First show I played live was the Basement show, I think. We talked about earlier. So it was at Scornavaco's Pizza. It was a Halloween show, 98. The other bands were Elliot's band, The Hormones, which Elliot was kind of an honorary member of Dispensing and In Loving Memory. And Horror Show Hoods, and our buddy Chris Davis's band, the Nuclear Kicks. So that's some deep
Nice.
old Des Moines
That's
cuts
awesome.
right there.
My next question: all-time favorite show you performed at? That meant the most to you. You know, maybe not the most full attended show, but like what meant the most to you?
Probably, like, honestly, it was probably that In Loving Memory show with Converge at the Botanical Center. I mean, it was just like, it was such a wild time to see them. Like that place didn't have a stage or anything. And it was right when the Poacher Diaries came out. So they were like, they were playing the meanest shit. And it was just like seeing that, like, and like all the kids, I felt like from like all the Midwest, like all the different scenes and stuff all came to that show because they didn't have another show that was like really right in the immediate vicinity. And that was probably my favorite show that I played. I mean, Dispensing played some legendary shows in like North Dakota and stuff like that too, but I think that Converge show probably is the first one that pops to mind.
My next, rapid.
And we're going rapid.
Right. My next question: all-time favorite show you saw but didn't play at that you went and saw?
God damn, Hal, I've been to so many shows.
I know it's tough to pinpoint, especially on a rapid fire too. All right, cool. We'll come back to it.
I'm gonna skip that one.
Okay, I'm a big
I gotta
movie
circle
guy. I
back to
always
that
ask this. What was the last movie you watched?
Oh, I don't even remember. I just watch TV shows because I can watch them in small bursts.
TV shows?
I'm watching True Blood right now. It's like we have like Law and Order SVU on basically on a constant loop, and I watch King of the Hill, or we have something that we watch together, and we're watching True Blood right now. Oh, and I watched like that. There's like a little HBO mini documentary series about that crazy family from South Carolina that like had a crime syndicate going that all got broke up pretty recently. I can't think of what the name of it was, but that was really good. But honestly, I like never watch movies.
I always ask it.
Sorry.
Well, I'll skip the next one because it's got to do with movies. I'll go on to hip hop. If you've been listening to hip hop lately, I'm a big '90s hip hop guy. Still listen to hip hop all the time. I've recorded countless shows. What have you been listening to for hip hop? If you've been listening to any at all?
I remember I reached out to you in 2020 because you were like curating some playlists, and I was like, man, I need to get into some like modern hip hop because like so much shit that that you try to. It's hip hop's tough to like peel back the surface of and like really get into like the good, really get into the good shit. And honestly, like listening to the stuff that you were listening to like a few years ago really kind of like opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. That and my buddy Frank. But long story short, all the Griselda shit, like anything Benny the Butcher puts out, like it's fucking guaranteed to be gold. That West Side Gun that he put out last year, like the second album he put out last year, the like real one, that shit is amazing. Like all the Your Old Droog stuff that he put out last year, like I fucking love all of his shit. DJ Muggs, I like a lot of what DJ Muggs is doing, and the Cloth guys. I fuck with hip hop hard. Like, I can talk to you about hip hop. We could do another one all about hip hop.
I love hip hop.
Talk to you about
I just actually, I'll send it to you. I was doing mixtapes on Spotify for like monthly new music for the stuff that we listen to.
Yeah.
And I just put one out for. I took a long break and then I started doing it again. So maybe like a week ago, I just did a new playlist for the last month's like releases that are pretty dope. So I'll send that to you after we get off.
Yes, and
Lastly,
it's
I
me.
just wanted to talk about like the scene of the Midwest back then. There was so many amazing bands. I mean, I love 10 Grand. I love Spirit of Versailles. I love, Eclipse, Loving Memory, Examination of the. Just talk about that real quickly. Like, you were talking about it was kind of, not closed to everybody else, but back then it was harder to find stuff. And if you really search for that music, then up here in the Northeast, I always we're digging to find those bands, really listening to them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just talk really quickly about how awesome that scene was back then and what it meant to you and those bands?
Yeah, 10 Grand is one. I can't believe that their name didn't come up, but yeah, the Fight of Blue was also like when we were young, they're from Iowa City and they're just like a couple years older than us. And it's like, man, seeing them and like Matt Davis, rest in peace. Like that guy was an incredible talent. And, just like, yeah, seeing those guys, like we would go to Sioux City just to see Eclipse of Eden shows, like just to like, and they were like a local band, we'd be like, oh, let's go over there and see this Eclipse show, just because we were just like, man, this band's amazing. And like the Hardesty was like really short-lived band out of Sioux Falls, and like I mean, like even like deep cuts like this, like Dan from Exam's first band was called Edict of Milan, and I remember we saw them playing in a garage, and he's like playing drums and playing keyboard at the same time, and we're just like, oh my god, like look at this. It was just, I feel like there was kind of this endless like little like concentration of talent right there that was if you were tapped into it, there was it was really special. There was a lot of really special stuff going on in that little era. And I know everybody kind of says that about their scene or whatever you grew up around, like, oh, it was really special. But I feel like a lot of that stuff holds up to this day, especially with kind of screamo revival stuff going on and whatnot, where I think, a lot of that stuff is still important, and it's it kind of is part of the building blocks for, what kind of became a recognized, musical style and musical scene. But yeah, being a part of it when we were kids, I think was really special as a really community building experience, as much of a community as you can build when you're 16 years old.
It's like catching lightning in a bottle in some areas of the United States. Well, even in Canada now. The bands are insane, but the Midwest, obviously, Boston area, then New York, Florida had an insane scene. Virginia had an insane scene for a little while. Obviously California too. So it was there was always those scenes that were popping back then, and hopefully things start to, like you were saying, it's kind of getting back to that, and all these new younger bands are exciting to hear from me, and I've enjoyed all the younger kids playing that style of music, and they put a little different flair on it now too, which I've enjoyed. Obviously some of the old heads still say oh, this screamo band sounds like this, I don't want to listen to that, because I've heard that before, you know what I mean? I see a lot of negativity with older screamo hardcore kids, which I'm not in agreement with that, because I keep my mind open to all things. Even being as old as I am, I still enjoy listening to new bands, and I love listening to old bands, and that's why I do these talks, just so people, if they forgot about Dispensing or In Loving Memory, they can go back and be like, oh shit, I heard these guys talking about this band, I'm going to go listen to them right now, and then they get the memories if they saw y'all play live or whatever. And that's kind of my intention of doing these discussions, just not letting people forget about how awesome these scenes were and how awesome these bands were, and that's basically why I do this.
Yeah, I dig it, Hal. Thank you. Thanks for having me on too.
Yeah, I mean, taking time out, I know it's kind of a pain in the ass for some people and stuff like that, and just taking an hour or so out to talk about this is like a love of mine, and I love it, and I want to thank you so much for doing it with me. I have 2 more talks, and then I'm going to take probably a good long break, because I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I'm ending at 102 because 2 of my talks got lost. Dimitri from Dillinger Escape Plan and Kathleen from Circle Pace Square. Instagram fucked me on
rude.
and deleted it as soon as I went to save it. So I was like, so I want 100 in my YouTube channel, and then I'm going to take a break, and then who knows what I'll do. I might come back and do some more, but I want to thank you so much for taking time out.
True.
And don't worry about the dogs, because I have 3 dogs. I know exactly how it is. You don't have to apologize about anything. I'm so used to it.
Barking
so,
the whole time.
Vinny, what's up? Vinny from Gospel just joined. But thank you again, and let's stay in touch. I'll send that link to you, and anything I can do for you. If y'all wanted to play up in New Hampshire, I'm sure I could find something, or in the Boston area as well. So thank you again.
Appreciate it, man.
All right,
yeah,
I'll let you go, and I'll let you get your dogs back in, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Peace.
All right, peace, dude.